let's make a move then. A little bit more housekeeping. If you have got any notes that you want to take, please, make sure you've got pen, paper. Make sure you've got some way of staying hydrated. And we're going to be following a very similar format to what we did last week, where there will be a short explanation around a topic. And then what we're going to do is answer any questions, and there's some questions that have got coming in. But if you want a question and answering, if there's anything that you want to share as well, that would be great. If you've got something that you've learned that you want to share, that you want to provide as a bit of an information service, then please put that in the questions and answers box as well. Okay, welcome to Diana and a couple of the people that have just joined us. So yeah, we've got 28 people on at the moment. Good. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the productivity program, and obviously there are lots of different elements to the productivity program. I want to go through this as quickly but also as thoroughly as I can. The aims of the program are quite clear. They're to increase the levels of investment, and by investment I mean investment in productivity. It's not just money, it's effort, it's focus, it's whatever you need to become more productive. And as we talked about last week, when a crisis hits like this, we need to look at productivity. We need to look at how we can squeeze more out of what we've got. And as we come out of this, I think we'll all learn some valuable lessons about how we can be more productive on the other side of this corona crisis. Another important thing is that it is about collaborating between businesses such as yourselves with the University of Lincoln. There is so much resource that you can access through the University of Lincoln, and many times when people talk about accessing different funds, accessing different products and different grants, etc., first place I direct people to is to the University of Lincoln and Charlotte and Sue, who have put most of this program together. And of course, it's interesting, I mentioned last week again that if we're going to get through this crisis, we can't keep doing business as usual. So the aim of this program, quite ironically, was way before this, was to stimulate business innovation. We've got to find different ways of doing things. And just adding Malcolm to here as well. So it's really important that we understand the impact of this is not going to be that we can continue to do business as usual once we get out of this. So now is a golden opportunity to look at what we're doing and to make sure that we are best placed to take advantage of those opportunities by doing things differently and using the time that we've got. And many of us perhaps are starting to get some time to actually focus on developing that side of the business. So that's the aims. Productivity, what is it? You can see what's on the screen there. I'm not going to teach you how to suck eggs. Sorry for the electric egg, but I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs and what productivity is. You can see them on there. And I think productivity with the last one isn't just something that will lead to business growth. It will lead at the moment to business survival. And that's why I'm so passionate about delivering these webinars. If we're going to get through this, if we're going to survive and we're going to thrive, we need productivity. There are still productivity vouchers available, and you can access these through the university. There are still academics that you can access from home. A lot of them work remotely. There's technical support, and of course there is that collaborative partnership that you can still build with the university, even though we're on this sort of lockdown that we have at the moment. There are also some grants available. Again, if you want to know more about the grants, get in touch with the productivity program and get in touch with the contacts there. And if you are thinking about capital equipment, of course, you might decide to go down the government loan of getting a CBILS loan, but I'm sure there are ways that you can use that loan to perhaps fund the 50% of these grants and some of the capital purchases as well. So speak to the team about that. I think there's going to be great ways in which we can do that. Just got a thing here. Kate, yep, HR, great, thank you. Internships. Internships are still available, I'm sure. If they're not available right now, there's certainly some good value in looking at internships. So that's one part of it. Business support. Now, this is where you are taking part in this business support. So you get 12 hours of free business support, and the program that you're on at the moment, these webinars come out of those 12 hours. And I've got a bit of a script here that I will read, if that's okay, if I can get it on my screen there. So just to clarify, the productivity program is for Greater Lincolnshire, which is delivered by the University of Lincoln and funded by the European Regional Development Fund. It's designed to enable micro, small and medium businesses to do things differently through grant funding, business support, internships and collaboration with the academic capacity of the university. So for more information, you can visit the Productivity Program website. And as part of the 12 hours that are on the screen at the moment, this is the support program, and these hours count towards the support that the program can offer you. Paul Smith is the business advisor, and he will be in touch with each of you that's registered for these webinars to talk to you more about the program. And you may be asked at a later date to sign a signing-in sheet to say that you've attended. And of course, we do have reports from Zoom that we can use for that as well. So when you get the call from Paul, make use of it. You know, if you want to know how you can access more of what the productivity program is about, and there's a whole wealth of offering here, then Paul is one of the people, when you do get that follow-up call from him, that it is worth speaking to. Okay, let's just get that out of the side. And there's also the graduate enterprise scheme as well. So if people need analysis for development, coaching and mentoring, there's grants available to that as well. And the details are on there for the website, the email address and the telephone number. So if you want any information on a productivity program, it's productivityprogram.co.uk and productivity@lincoln.ac.uk. Great. I think that's got all my information that I need to give all out in one good go. Little bit of a reminder, some of you might know me, some of you might not have been on last week's, but three things that I want to do today. So my role with you guys today is to make you aware of the possibilities in your business, to educate you in business best practices, and to hold you accountable for getting things done. As we go through this session, it's important that you write notes down, and it's important that you highlight actions that you're going to take. If you just attend and you do nothing after these sessions, then two things. One, you're wasting your time, and I think you're wasting the knowledge that I'm going to share with you as well. So please be respectful of that and hold yourselves accountable and be disciplined to take the action that you need to take following on from this. And you know, I hold all of my clients to these three things, and in particular, accountability as well. Format for today, hot topics. If any of you have got any hot topics, things you want to share, things you want to go through, again, use the questions and answers box. I'm going to go through and answer questions after we've talked about some of the topics. And then we're going to cover three things with the time that we've got, and we're going to be on for 90 minutes. We're about 12 minutes all the way through. We're going to look at strategic planning essentials, accounting, and do's and don'ts in a business crisis to help you with this. And these are really important, both for surviving this crisis, but also about being productive and looking at how you can thrive in this as well. As I mentioned, any questions, any hot topics, please put in there. Now, Neil has sent one here, and I'm going to read it off my phone because I've got the email here on my phone, I think. Yep. So Neil Baker asked here, a big question at the moment is with the job retention scheme, or furlough, as people generally tends to use the word. We haven't needed to put anyone on that, as we have a good slate of projects at the moment. I'm not going to read all the details, but it says here, yeah, it might be likely for a lot of the businesses that are on here that they may need to furlough people within the next couple of months. And the question here that Neil asks is that he cannot seem to find a concrete answer for whether you can furlough someone and then bring them back for a month or so and then put them back on furlough. So that's and I was asked that question last time, and I did research it, and I have reached out to a few people, and I have got some clarification on that. So Neil, if you're able to take yourself off with mute, if you want to, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm off mute now.
Yep. Hi, Neil. So this is a question that you raised, and I think Glenn from Alan Signs was talking about it as well. You know, do you keep the workforce as busy as you can, then furlough them, and if work picks up again, take them off the furlough, or do you just drag out the hours? And I gave them the answer of whether they were salaried or not. The current, and I say current because everything I talk about is right as it is at the moment, and if anybody's watching the recording of this, it might be out of date because, you know, it's sort of like TV on demand, isn't it? It's not quite the same. But at the moment, what I've been told very concretely is that if you furlough somebody, it has to be for a minimum of 3 weeks. If you furlough somebody for 3 weeks, you can take them off a furlough for any period. So you could furlough them for 3 weeks, get them back to do a week's worth of work. You can get them back to do 2 or 3 weeks worth of work. If you then furlough them again, you have to do it for another minimum of 3 weeks. Okay. Now, the paperwork associated with this, your payroll people will hate you for it, because every time you furlough somebody, you know, it has to be done differently on the pay slips. And of course, the other thing, just to clarify, because a lot of my clients have asked me this, you don't have to pay them 100% of their wages. That is, again, was a change. I can't remember if we talked about it last time, but obviously the government give you 80%, okay, and you'll have to apply for that. You don't have to pay your employees the other 20%. So what you do is, let's use this typical example for those that perhaps haven't heard about this. You put their payroll through, and let's say their payroll, for ease of maths, because I'm, you know, just a measly quantity surveyor by profession, so I'm not that good at adding up without a calculator, but £1,000 at the top of the pay packet. You then take a 20% furlough adjustment off to bring it down to a new gross of £800. When you've got that £800, your payroll provider or your accounts package then will take the tax and national insurance and the pension off of the £800, and you pay the employee what is on the bottom of the pay packet. So hopefully, Neil, you can see that, you know, if you're taking people onto furlough and then off of furlough and then back onto furlough, it's not so much whether you can and can't do it, it's more the admin and the remembering which bits to do, because you're going to have to apply furlough deductions to part of their salary perhaps, and then not to the other. So it certainly is possible, but from a payroll provider, it might be a bit of a nightmare. Does that help? Is there anything else you want to ask on that, Neil, before we move on?
No, I think that was pretty clear. I think, yeah, I mean, the ability to move in and out might be really useful, given, you know, the lack of on-site work at the moment. But, you know, it's only going to be one person if needs be. But it's good to know that it's got that flexibility. Thank you.
Yeah. The thing is that I would say, if you do furlough someone, be very, very careful about them working. You know, if they've got email accounts and they're sending emails out, or they're responding to emails, that might still be classed as working. So I've got one client who has said that what they are doing is that they are monitoring their employees' accounts, and they're sending emails out as though it's going out from, you know, Bill or Ben, because they want those people to be responded to when it comes out of this. But the difficulty with that is that when this is checked up on later on, it might be that is seeing that those people were still working, and you don't want to be caught out, because the government are going to try and get every penny back that they can. So I'm glad that makes, and thanks for sending that through, Neil. That's a really good question. I'm just going to ask Ian. Ian's got his hand up. Ian, if you want to just unmute yourself. Was there something you wanted to add or ask about that?
Yeah, just following on from that, I just wondered if you or anyone else has got any information as to how they would be checking or policing furloughed workers.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't think they're going to be policing it much at all. But, and this is a general consensus, and I just had Kate Goodman put a comment on there, so I'll come back to that in a second from an HR point of view. But what I would say is, your records can be inspected by the HMRC for up to 6 years. And I'm pretty sure we're not going to see anything in 6 to 18 months. Perhaps some of the bigger claims might get inspected within that 18-month period. But my worry is it's the businesses that 2 to 3 years down the line are going to get the inspections. The government are going to try and get every single penny, every pound back that they're giving out to people through hikes in taxes. But very much, I think a lot of tax inspectors are going to be recruited, and their mission is going to be reclaiming grants that have been improperly claimed. So I think it's the check-in's going to come after. I think the check-in's going to come further down the line. It would be very, unless it's completely fraudulent, it would be very bad publicity to start putting even more of a burden on people by, getting them to do checks and inspections, certainly during the next 6 to 18 months, I would have thought.
Okay, thanks.
So, yeah, make sure you keep your records. And as I said to a guy this morning that I've just mentioned, I said, if you are going to use your employees' email accounts in that way, and I'm sure Kate Goodman, who's offered the HR help with this, make sure that, one, you've got the policies to be able to do that. Make sure you've got the way to be able to look at people's emails, because you do need a policy for that, and go to a HR provider to help you with that. But the other thing is that you need to make sure that you perhaps are giving an audit trail where you're telling your staff that, so you can prove later on that you told them that, and it was clear that they weren't working and that they weren't the people monitoring the email. So just make sure you're covering that paper trail, and keep this paper trail for quite some time, because there's a good opportunity that might come back and bite you earlier on. Kevin and Kate, can I just ask just one favor? Can you use the questions and answers box? The Zoom chat box is something that I'm not looking at unless I see it flashing over there. So if you can type things into the Q&A box, that would be really helpful. Isabel, you're unmuted. Was there something you wanted to ask or say, or just unmuted by mistake? Nope, doesn't sound like Isabel's there. Okay, I'm just going to click mute there. Okay, so thanks, Kate, for the offer there. Of course, people, whilst they are on furlough, and this is really important what Kate has just said, they can attend training. So if you want them to do some kind of training to increase their skills, they can do training, and of course they can volunteer. So it's a good time to use to upskill your workforce at this time as well. Again, what I would suggest is that you attend training, that you've got some kind of record of attendance, some kind of certificate of attendance, and some kind of registration process, because you want to be able to show people that. But they can certainly do training, as Kate has said there. And Kate is happy to help, and I'm sure. So can they do online training? Yeah, as far as I'm aware, yes, they can. Kate has asked an interesting question. Can staff work for another employer while they are furloughed? When you furlough somebody, you're saying that you don't have work for them and you can claim the grant for them. Obviously, what they can't do is you can't claim the grant for somebody else's employment. So it's back to this, how much time are they working for you? And that's a good question. I'll ask that one a little bit more after this session. But I think it's the same thing. Again, Kate might be able to help me on this. But if people are working for you as the majority of their time, it's a bit like the working time directive. You've got to look at, you know, are you their key employer? But if you've got no work for them and, you know, you're just a part of their overall employment because they've got one or two other jobs, then you're only furloughing your own part of the business. So as far as I'm aware, you know, if they're working for somebody completely different, the key criteria is that they can't work for you. So yes, Kate said yes, online training, absolutely, that can be it. And what qualifies as training? It's something that is enhancing or increasing or upskilling the staff that you've got. I don't think training, if you were a website designer and you wanted to train in basket weaving, I don't think that would count. But a daily meeting to talk about work, that doesn't count as training. If you are getting them to attend work meetings, and this was a question that a client of mine asked the other day, if you're getting them involved in work meetings where you're talking about productivity, you're talking about clients, then they're at work. Absolutely. Yeah, that does not count as training. Okay. Now, if they're attending a session which you're giving them a training session on health and safety, PPE, things like that, then that's different. But if you are talking about work, and I think, you know, this is quite a difficult one that you're going to have to justify and validate later on, and that's keeping that paper trail, then work meetings do not count as training, and it would definitely count as work, and you would be caught out for not furloughing them. Definitely. Okay. Yeah, so Kate said, unless you have a contractual term saying they can't work for someone else, then yes, they can. But again, you would just make sure that your contracts are covered and that the amounts that you're paying them are correct. Yeah, what if they volunteer to attend a meeting online? If they volunteer to attend a meeting online, if they're attending a meeting, then they're still at work. As far as I'm concerned, that's a very, very clear one. If they're taking part in work activities, then they're still at work. So you should do everything to encourage them that they shouldn't be at work. Diana's got an interesting question. I'm conscious we're taking up quite a bit of time with this, but I'll answer this final question on the flowing. Diana said, can they just attend a team meeting to find out whether work is likely to be available for the following week? That's an interesting one. I think from my point of view, it's about keeping your sort of record straight. So if you want people to attend a meeting to talk about future workload, then you should be clear that that is the purpose of the meeting and invite them to attend the meeting for that purpose. Or if that is part of the meeting, make sure you point out to them that they should attend that part of the meeting and then not attend the other part of the meeting. I think you've got to be very, very careful of that. But of course, you know, you can contact them one-to-one. You can contact them as a whole team to say, we're bringing you off a furlough. So communications is different. So I think if you're communicating to them that they're going to be taken off a furlough, and obviously that's your prerogative, then that would be the case. But I think you just got to be clear that you can produce a trail or some kind of clarification of what the purpose are of these meetings, and just be careful. You know, the likelihood is nobody's going to bother, but I wouldn't want to give anybody advice on here that then they get an inspection in 2 years' time and they say, well, Simon said that, you know, they can attend meetings. You know, anything like that, you know, you've got to judge your own risk on that, definitely. Okay. Now, what I want to talk about for the next sort of 10, 15 minutes is the need to work on your vision and your goals. Okay, now I hope that many of the people on here have some kind of mission statement, some kind of vision of where they want the business to be in the longer term. Okay, and I think it's important that what we do at this moment in time, we realize that we have to split our goals into two categories. And I covered this in my Monday's Moment video. If you follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn, you'll see that I load a video every Monday, and you can check out that video. And I talked about the fact that we do need to set goals. It's really, really important. But what we need to do is we need to distinguish the difference between destination goals, the longer term goals, the summit goals, because I think for most of us, they feel too far away at the moment. They feel too big, too lofty. Not for all of us, but for some of us. So what we do need to do is we need to just check in that we still have that big destination vision, that big destination goal. But then what we need to do is we need to break those down into small goals. You and your team need something to focus on. And our minds struggle to focus unless we give our mind a goal. Otherwise, it doesn't know what to focus on. So for you and for all of your team, it's important to set some goals. But I would try and avoid setting too many destination goals and focus more on the here and now goals. And by here and now goals, what I mean is goals that are perhaps a week ahead, 2 weeks ahead, a month ahead, 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead, but try not to go too far. Set some very clear, achievable and reachable goals that people can quite easily see them, almost touch them. They should be stretching, they should be out of reach. But if none of you have done that yet, then you need to think about what are your milestone goals. Okay, and then share those goals with yourself, with those that you work with, and with your team, and perhaps even share them with your clients and your suppliers as well, if that's appropriate. But the other thing that we need to do this with is, as well as to give focus, we also need to give ourselves a pat on the back when we achieve them. We need some good news. We need some pats on the back for quick wins. So make sure that what you do in the week ahead is take some time and write some immediate goals down. Now, this is a bit of a workshop format. So what I'd like you to do while I get a sip of tea is just write down perhaps 1 or 2 or even 3 goals that you could set right now for yourselves and for your business, and just write them down right now. Okay. Now, these goals, of course, should get you to the destination goal, but the focus isn't the destination goal. The focus is on the immediate goals. Okay. The next thing is looking at your strategic plan. Now, strategic planning essentials. Some of you may have what you call a business plan. Some of you may have something you call a strategic plan. There's a great resource by Vern Harnish in the book, The Rockefeller Habits, and it's available through Vern Harnish's websites as well, called the One-Page Strategic Plan. And this has the whole strategy of where the business is heading, how it's going to get there, how it's going to finance it, and KPIs, key performance indicators that show that it is going to be on track. And those strategic plans are really important to have in place. For 2 reasons we need to do this. When we're in a crisis like we are now, what we need to do is check in on that plan more. So if you haven't got a plan, then you need one. If you have got one, which I hope many of you have, what you need to do is you need to check in on those plans. And I don't care if it's a 1-page plan. I don't care if it's a 40-page plan. I don't care if it's written on the back of a postcard or an envelope. But what you need to do is the maintenance of these plans is to check in on them more regular. Now, I always tell people I work with to check their strategic plans every 90 days. But now I would say you need to check in on those plans every week, every 2 weeks. If you want to make sure you're heading in the right direction, if you want to make sure that the changes that you're making are having an impact, check in with the plan, make your decisions against the plan. Now, at the moment, lots of people are making lots of knee-jerk decisions and knee-jerk reactions, and they're doing that without checking in on their plans. So every decision that you make as a business should be against that strategic plan. So check that. The other thing is, and this goes back to the CBILS, the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. And that's something that's not that easy to say when you've had too much drink at home, of course. But what you've got to think about is a lot of these loan schemes, anybody on here who's going to be applying for that, what they want to see is that a business that was good in 2019 is going to be a good to great business in 2021. So you've got to start working on your growth plans. What is business going to look like on the other side of this? They want to see that you're planning for recovery. Okay, there might be a dip now, but they want to see that things are going to get better. They want to see what you're going to do at the end of this. They're going to want to see, is there a potential for growth? And for many of us on this call, there might be, and for some of us, there might not be. But you've got to make sure that your plan has some kind of detail of what 2021 looks like. If you're not planning of what 2021 looks like now, when you apply for any finance, that is one of the questions that you're going to get asked. And my contact at Barclays was very, very adamant that they want to see good, solid plans. One, of how you're coping now, but what is 2021 going to look like? So if you haven't sat down and thought about 2021 yet, I'm not saying you've got to do it straight away, but you need to start thinking about it. You need to start thinking about it in the weeks and months ahead. And if you're going for the finance loans, you need to think about it sooner rather than later. Okay, I've got a question that just popped up here. Let me just see. What was that dude's name again? Sorry. One Page Strategic Plan. Vern Harnish. There's 2 books he's got. The latter book, if you can see it there, is called Scaling Up by Vern Harnish. This is the model that they're using for all the local enterprise upscale schemes, of which I'm one of the coaches involved in that. I've done boot camps. You can see there's plenty of little notes in there. But this is quite a complex version of that plan for businesses that are really trying to scale up. But Vern Harnish has a great version of the One Page Strategic Plan in the Rockefeller Habits. If anybody wants access to it, I can gladly give you a free copy of it. It's an Excel spreadsheet and there's lots of different comments that show you how to fill it in. So just message me directly or email me directly, and I'm happy to get that over to people. Send me a message on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. Yep. Okay. Fabulous. It's something I've used in my own businesses for many, many years, and I've hit every single one of my goals for the last 19 years using that plan. So it's a very, very powerful tool. Okay, before we go on to the next topic of accounting, and I'm conscious we're already quite a way into this. Any more questions and answers? Anything you want answering? Kevin's asked a question here. I'm just going back to the chat thing. Do you have any idea of what level of work might disqualify? Any level, I think, is a simple answer to that. The detail is quite clear. It's any work. They must not do any work. Now, that's a good question, Kevin, to ask, because I do want to give one caveat, and I know we're talking a lot about the job retention scheme. And I'll mention about the CBILS when we talk about accounting. But many of us on this call might be directors. And obviously self-employed people are completely different. So if you're self-employed, the amazing thing with the self-employed scheme, although it's going to take longer to get it, you can still work. So if you're self-employed, you don't have to stop working to get that 80% grant. You've got to meet other criteria of tax returns and things like that. But self-employed people do not have to stop working. The the thing going back to the limited companies and the businesses that are sort of incorporated, directors are slightly different. Okay, now directors generally, if you're going to furlough, you're going to get 80% of less money if you're taking your wages in a tax efficient way. So this is where that's going to raise more issues. But you still have a legal responsibility to carry out your role as a director. So as a director, if you furlough directors or you furlough yourself, which you can do, whilst you shouldn't be doing general day-to-day work, you should still be doing the director role. So you should still be keeping on top of accounts. You should still be producing any reports to Companies House. You can still do the roles, the legal duties as a director. Okay. Now, part of that argument is that some of the business development would also be what you do as in that role. But what you can't do is day-to-day work. Anything that you do as normal in your business shouldn't be done. But your roles as a director certainly can be done. Okay, any more questions that anybody's thought about? You've got the name for the one-page strategic plan. Perhaps what I would like to do, if possible, can I just ask all those that have some kind of strategic plan or a business plan that you work with and you make decisions against, and there's quite a few of my clients on this call from Sparkhouse and from the University of Lincoln, so I'll be really disappointed if you don't put your hand up, although Jay might be a little bit early in on that. But can you just type in the questions box that you have a plan? All those of you who have a plan, whether it be a strategic plan, a business plan, back of an envelope, 1 page, 40 pages, just type in the questions and answers box. So Diana, yes, we have a plan. So please, all of you that have a plan, and this is where I make sure you're still awake, that you're still with me, put in there, Julie Previously, yes. Eric, yes. David, yes. Tina, plan, yeah. Judy, yes. Great. We have our original plans, but now outdated, yeah. And that's why that maintenance, Alan, comes into it. You've got those initial plans, and I know a lot of us have been busy, and perhaps haven't checked in on those plans for some time, but now is the time to actually go back to those plans and maintain them and update them. Definitely. Great. Jay, yes, business and strategic, and a 3-year orbital plan. Yeah, so the orbital plan, I'm sure that sounds like that was Growth Accelerator. So I used to use the orbital plan through Growth Accelerator. So I'm glad about that. Isabel Hopkins, long-term plan. Yeah, that's great. So one of the things I would say with that, Isabel, is that a strategic plan has the long-term plans in it. But if you look at the Vern Harnish one-page strategic plan, what it does, it breaks the long-term goals and plans, let's say in 10 years' time, down into 3 to 5, down into annual goals, and down into quarterly rocks, as it's called. So every quarter you're doing something that helps you achieve your annual plan. Every year you're doing something that gets you, if you achieve it, that gets you closer to your 3-year plan. And if you achieve your 3-year plan, then you're closer to your longer term plan. So any kind of strategic plan or business plan should have those sort of different sections in there. Zoe, I would expect nothing less. Yep. Neil, a direction of travel and an aim, but not a formalized piece. We check in every 6 to 12 months. Yeah. If you've got a business plan, one of the things, whether we're in crisis or not, you should be reviewing those business plans. They're not meant for filing cabinets. They're not meant to be in drawers. If it is, it's the wrong kind of plan. It might be a plan that you went to get finance or funding or set your business up in the first place, or created to apply for tenancy at Sparkhouse or think tank or enterprise. A business plan should be something that every single 90 days you get out and you make sure that you're staying on track, and you've got some good key performance indicators that make sure you're doing that. Yeah. So interesting. We've got 29 people on the call, and only 13 of you have put on there that you have a plan. So that's interesting, and that's about the norm. Actually, I mean, the fact that you're on here shows that you are one of the businesses that is stepping up. And I would say most of the businesses I talk to, it's probably less than 10% have a plan. You know, a lot of them say, yeah, I've got a plan. It's all in my head. But, you know, that's not really the plan that we're talking about. Okay. Any questions before we move on? Great. Moving on to the next section, then I want to talk about is accounting. And if you remember last week, I referred to this document that Mike McAllowitz and Donald Miller have produced called the Recession Response Plan. I don't like the title of it. This is a document that was used some years ago, but it has some really good things on it. And one of the sections on here is about accounting. And I was reminded in one of the group sessions that I had the other day, and the free coaching clinic that I do every Tuesday yesterday as well, by an accountant that was on there, that in times like this, we need to know our figures. Again, looking at the CBILS loan, the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme, what people want to see when they're providing funding is an understanding of your figures. Okay. And it's really important to be on top of your figures. You should be reviewing your accounts, your costs, your expenses right now. Now is a great time to remind yourselves of what you need to be spending money on. So go through your expenses. Dan, the accountant yesterday, had a great spreadsheet, and every month he uploads all of his bank transactions into the spreadsheet, and then he goes down them and he identifies whether they're things that generate profit, whether they're things that could be replaceable. So something that could be replaceable, for example, you might get cheaper somewhere else, or you might be able to find an alternative source. And then there are the things that are unsustainable, things you should get rid of. And I did this with somebody the other day, and they went through all of their expenses. And as they went through their expenses, they found £300 per month of subscriptions that they had thought they'd cancelled, but didn't realize they were still paying for. And they'd been doing that for over 12 months, paying for things that they thought they cancelled that they were still paying for. So the proactive side of accounting is about looking at your expenses. And it's not just looking at your business expenses. Do this with your personal expenses as well. These are going to be hard times ahead for many, many of us. And what we should be doing is looking at our expenses, both in the business and also personally as well. And check them, check the expenses, see what people are charging us. Are things going up? Are things going down? And when you look at those expenses, if you look and you think, okay, this is something actually I could get somewhere else. We want to support those people that have supported us. We want to do business with people that we need to, and we need to help and we need to support. But perhaps it's an opportunity to go back to them now and ask for a better deal, to ask for better terms. Okay. And if we can't, then we might have to be brutally honest for the protection of our own business, and we might have to go and shop for those services or those products somewhere else. So be proactive about looking at your accounts. The other thing to do, I know garden centres, and I used to have a garden centre many years ago, plants are dying, plants are seasonal. And there is nothing worse than having a huge stock of plants and live things, whether it be meat, veg, whatever it is, whatever business you're in, there's nothing worse than having an inventory of stock that is either going out of date, but it's got a shelf life that you need to get rid of. So in looking at your accounts, look at a stock that you can get out in some kind of way. I know we've got Glenn and David on from Alan Science. Are there ways that you could get rid of your stock by offering something particularly on signage, for example, and I'm going to show how outdated I am with signs now, but Colex boards, etc. people are putting handwritten signs up, they're printing it out on A4 sheets and laminating it. Is there a way that you can get your inventory out of the door and reduce your stock levels by doing some kind of bundles, some kind of offers, or just tell people that that's what you do? It's amazing how many people have got old stock on the shelf that people don't even realize that they've got, or that's a product or a service that they don't even know that they do. So from a proactive point of view, from an accounting, make sure that you're looking at your accounts. Now, I have a business success curve, which I tend to draw. And I find when people are on the success part of the curve, that is a very dangerous place for a lot of businesses. And this ties into the productivity side exceptionally well, because when things are going well, people stop looking at their figures. That guy who hadn't noticed that £300 per month was going out, he didn't notice it because there was money in the bank. But when we're being successful, that is the best time to look at your figures. That's the best time to get better deals from people. That's the best time to look at how you can be more efficient and more productive with your resources, with your stock levels, with your suppliers, and also with your clients. If you leave it till times like this, what's the likelihood that somebody who is on their knees is going to give you a better deal because you're doing less with them? When you're growing and you're doing more business and you can push more business to your suppliers, they're more likely to give you a better deal than when things are quiet. So as we come out of this, make sure that this proactive accounting is something that you keep up. Really, really important. When people are on that success curve, you need to monitor your finances. And any clients of mine on here know how much I say, it's all about understanding your figures. It's all about looking at your figures and monitoring your figures. And the busier you are, the more you should be looking at them. The more successful you are, the more you should be looking at them, because that's where you can make significant differences. The final thing on accounting is future planning. Okay. And this is about, for me in particular, understanding what your cash flow is. And cash flow does two things. One, it obviously makes sure you have no surprises. And that's one reason for having it. And it's probably at the moment, it's a very important reason for having it. But looking at what you're going to do in the future, looking at what big bills are going to be coming out, people are going to be taking advantage of the HMRC payment times. But all that's going to do is it's going to cause cash flow problems in March 2021, when suddenly you have to pay the VAT that you don't have to pay in this current period. Okay, so we get a whole year to knock our VAT payments back, but then we need to make sure from a cash flow point of view that we're planning for that to come out. It's like the loans. When you're doing the cash flow, every cash flow forecast that people have sent me to look at in the last 2 or 3 days for these Sybil's loans, nobody has put the loan amount on the cash flow forecast. One guy is borrowing an amount of money, he's borrowing £350,000, and that's going to be £6,000 to £7,000 a month. And he hadn't included that outgoing in his cash flow. So when you're looking at future planning, it's really important that you have all those expenses in there, all those future expenses of VAT payments, some of the payment holidays that people are on. You might get it like a funding circle loan, for example. You can have a payment holiday with those, and they'll give you 3 months. They'll mark your credit score if you do, which you've got to be aware of. But then months 4, 5, and 6 are double the payments. So you need to plan for that. I'm very passionate about figures and very passionate about accounting. You need as well to make sure that your system is coping with things. Whether you're using Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, make sure you're using the system that you've got to the best that you can. Okay. Now, the other thing for me with future planning on accounts, and I love cash flows, not for the finance, but I love it for the sales and marketing. Because if I've got all my costs down and I know what I'm going to be paying out, I need to know what my income levels need to be to hit the profit at the bottom. So that then drives my sales and marketing. I know what business I've got to maintain, and I know what new business I've got to bring in. And I like playing with cash flows. You know, if I'm going to take a new member of staff on, what impact does that have? How much new business do I need to bring in to cover the cost of the new member of staff? Their car, their phone, their laptop. You know, put all those costs into the cash flow and then see what the sales and marketing needs to be to cover that person. Okay, so it's really, really important when it comes to future planning of your accounts. One final thing I'll say, and then I'll open up to some more questions and answers, is have a look at your client terms. You know, are there things in their history that you need to be considering? You know, have you got bad payers that you need to be more on top of? Have you got good payers that you need to say thank you to? Are there, you know, clients that are more profitable, and you want more clients like them? You don't want more clients like the bad payers or the people that don't value what you do. So when you're looking through this account list, when you're looking at your cash flow forecast, take a look at your client history. Where have your best clients come from? How great were they? What were their payment terms? Can you reduce the payment terms? Can you now squeeze their payment terms from 30 days to 14 days? So it's really important and to understand your figures, because you can do so much with them. Okay. And of course, it's going to be really important over the next months, 6 months, 18 months, to compare figures to the previous year. And that's going to be really difficult for many of us, but we want to see what impact it's having. And we want to look and see what 2021 looks like compared to 2019. Okay. Is it going to be better than 2019 or worse? Because I can tell you, if you're going to go for finance, if you're showing figures for 2021 that aren't as good as 2019, then that's going to be a problem for you. You need to show an improvement. You need to show that business isn't going to be the same, and that you're going to be as good, if not better, in 2021 than you were in 2019. And 2020, I think, most of us understand that that's a completely different set of figures. For some of us, it might be a good set of figures. For some of us, it might be a poor set of figures. Okay, so I'm going to stop there and just ask you again. I talk a lot and my voice is starting to croak a little bit. Think about things that you need to do with accounting. Is it about taking action to look at your expenses? Is it about getting a cash flow? Your cash flow should be at least 6 months ahead. If you're not doing a cash flow at 6 months ahead, it's not far enough. I know that feels really difficult at the moment, and it really feels like you're putting your finger up into the air a little bit, but it's really important. So what write down now, what do you need to do to get on top of your accounting, being proactive, or future planning? And if there's anything you want to share, put it into the questions and answers box. And if there's any other questions you want to ask on anything that we've just talked about the Sybil's loan, the funding that's available, the interest rates, the amounts, I'm getting lots of information direct from the Bank of England through the East Midlands agent that I speak with, as well as from the banks themselves. And now I've just got one hot topic that I want to cover off as well. Again, this is where I check that you're all awake, that you're all still with me. Hopefully I've stunned you into silence because you're writing lots and lots of notes. So Kate said here, I'm going to sign up to an online accounting system. Any recommendations? Yes, personally, and I use QuickBooks. Xero is another one that I see a lot of clients use. The only reason I went with QuickBooks is that it suited my business at the time and cost. I think QuickBooks do a very good job of selling to us as the end consumers, and you'll see that on TV a lot. Xero do a very good job of selling to accountants. A lot of accountants like Xero because they get something for it. QuickBooks gives some amazing discounts to accountants, and they do some amazing support, but a lot of it is focused on the end user. There is another accounting system called Free Agent, which is, as it said, it's free, but it is limited. Sage, as far as I'm aware, and if there's any accountants on here, please tell me otherwise. I'm a was a big fan of Sage. I've used Sage for 20 years in my businesses, but they just haven't got to grips with the online system yet at all. So I think at the moment there are only two industry leaders, which is Xero and QuickBooks, and look at what they each provide and you'll get a pretty good idea of which one suits you best. Neil's put there Xero. I know a lot of people use Xero and a lot of people use QuickBooks as well. Would you buy it again now having used it? Would I buy what again? Would I buy QuickBooks again? That's a good question. Oh, I like that one. Yes, I would. Absolutely. The only thing I would say is that all of these accounting packages, you get led to believe that they're easy. They're easy to use and they're easy to follow. None of them are. You do need some bookkeeping experience. You do need them setting up correctly in the first place. So if you are using an online system, if you're going to do it yourself, make sure you set it up properly. Make sure you take all the support that you can to get all the right codes, all the right categories, all the right tax codes set up. And if you have got the ability to do it, look for a bookkeeper or somebody who can do some of it for you. I use QuickBooks. I realized after 12 months that I wasn't doing that good a job of using it. I wasn't using it to its full efficiency. So I moved to Dan from D&K Accounting, and he does all my QuickBooks bookkeeping for a relatively small amount a month. Okay, but yes, I would definitely buy QuickBooks again, and I would buy Xero as well. The only reason I wouldn't buy Xero is because it's just a little bit more than what I need at the moment. Paul has asked a question. You're looking at grants, they always pay out after a business has had to pay all the money up front. Yeah, is there a way around this? As over the years I've wanted to do things but not being able to raise all the money, but could raise 50% or slightly more. Yes, a lot of the grants that are available, and I do think there are going to be a lot more available, but a lot of them, what they are is sort of standalone grants. Some of them, if they're ERDF funding, they come under this de minimis. So you can't have two grants to do something, but you can put your own money in, as you say, Paul, 50% or more. You can put your own money in, and that money can come from anywhere. So one of the things that I'm encouraging people to do, if you are thinking about increasing your business, either right now or as you come out of this, purchasing new equipment, you might be able to get grants for it. But now is the time to think about the government loan scheme. You've got 12 months interest free. You've got low interest rates that are going to be fixed for up to 5 to 10 years. So you can use that CBILS money, even if you set it to one side as a pot, you can use that money then to be your contribution towards the grants that are either available now or available in the very near future. And some of these CBILS loans are going to take a while to come through, but you can always take it and then ring fence it and put it to one side as long as you're disciplined enough to do that. So one of the ways of doing that, and I did this back in the previous two recessions, 2009 and in the mid-90s, that's what we did. So we used the government guarantee scheme, as it was called then, to get the money into our bank accounts so that then we could have the money to pay the contribution for the grants, or to pay for it all up front and then get the 50% back. And I think I remember back in 2009, Paul, a lot of the grants, you didn't have to prove that you paid it to get the money back. You had to have an invoice. They gave you your half, and they either paid the supplier direct, or there was an audit trail that checked you'd paid the supplier, otherwise they clawed it back. But they realized that in hard times, people haven't got 100% to pay up front. That's why the job retention schemes changed. That's why they're not asking you to pay the 20% to your employees and then stand all of the 100% for months before you get your money back. So I think there will be grants that are more lenient towards how you fund it, and perhaps you have to pay your 50%, but you don't have to pay 100% to get 50% back. But all that will come out in the wash in the weeks and months ahead. Hopefully that's answered that question, Paul. If you want to talk more about that, happy for you to take yourself off of mute and answer that and talk about that a little bit more if you want to. Whilst you decide if you want to talk more about it, Neil, Xero is great and quick to easy, good simple account reports and overview and reconciling tools. Yeah, absolutely. Kate, we've signed up to the staff incentive scheme Perk Box, but understandably no one is using it right now, so that's something we could save money on. Kate, can you just, Perk Box is something I've come across but don't know too much about, so can you just take yourself off of mute and just tell us a little bit more about what you mean with Perk Box and how that might help you?
Yeah, we signed up to Perk Box probably a year or two ago now, and it gives staff discounts in stores and half-price cinema tickets. You get free Nero's coffee every week.
Right.
And we pay a subscription amount per employee every month.
Okay.
So I guess when you said about going through subscriptions, you might be paying for things you don't need anymore.
Yeah.
At the minute, understandably, no one is using Perk Box.
Yeah.
And I think it's about £10 per month per employee or something of that nature. So that's an area where we could make a small saving, and the staff wouldn't miss it at the minute.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and that is the kind of thing. Yeah, I've heard of it. So I think it's something like British Gas offered Perk Box to all their customers at some point. But yeah, you got a free trial of it, and then you had to sign up for it. But yeah, it's things like that can be a good benefit and are well worth turning back on when things pick up. But yeah, they're the things certainly that you can look to. The other thing is there are other ways that you can help charities. Obviously, charities are taking a big hit at the moment. There are things that you can sign up to online that if you buy things on eBay and Amazon, or you buy things online, that certain amounts of that money or percentage goes to charities as well. So that's worth having a look at. And that just might not help your staff, but it might help people who are at home, who are buying things, feel they're contributing in a different way as well. So Jay here, or James has put on here, accountants help to set up Xero at no extra cost. Yeah, a lot of accountants will, and that answers probably your question, Paul. Yeah, if you are looking at an online system, find accountants, that use it. So if you've got an accountant that you're happy with, ask them which one, because what you don't want is an accountant that uses Xero and then you go and use QuickBooks. So make sure if you've got an existing accountant, make sure they're happy which one you're going to go with, because they will need to go online and access it. And of course, whether it's Xero or QuickBooks, one of the things I heartily recommend is Receipt Bank. So Receipt Bank is a way of just taking a photo of a receipt with your phone, with your iPad, or just forwarding it on through email, and it just puts all of your receipts automatically into the accounting software. And it normally comes at an extra cost, but I'm sure if you speak to your accountant, one, they might be able to do a good deal on the accounting software, and two, they might be able to give you a Receipt Bank as well. Adam Carter's mentioned here free software Wave if you don't need payroll. So he uses Xero presently, looking to migrate everything over to Zoho next year, as this has an all-in-one package CRM. Yeah, I used to use Zoho. Cool, I'm going back 10 years or so now, so that's interesting. But yes, definitely think about what your accountant wants. Kate Goodman's put here, charitychampioncard.co.uk as something to have a look at. Kate, do you want to just mention what that is, and then we'll answer any final questions and move on. If you want to take yourself off of mute, Kate. Yeah. So what is charitychampioncard.co.uk?
It's a brand new scheme. It's just launched right now, so it's just getting up and running, and it's pretty much the same as things like Perk Box. You can go online and make purchases, but every time you make a purchase, a percentage of what you spend goes back to charity and local community groups in your local area. There's also a place on there where local businesses can advertise their services to other businesses, to charities and to individuals, and post different discount levels on. So it's kind of a good bit of free advertising and really helping to push shopping local.
Yeah, great.
Worth a look.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kate, and thanks for the input earlier on some of the items as well. I really appreciate that. Okay, got 5 seconds if you want to type in one more question. Conscious we've got about 20 minutes left. Okay, any more questions? Nope, 5 seconds is up. So I'll answer any more. If you've got any questions, please keep them in the questions and answers box, and we'll come to those a little bit later on. One of the things I want to keep referring back to, and this is particularly important, as some of you will see, I've got a certificate behind me for Fix This Next. Mike Michalowicz, the author of the book Profit First, has got a great book coming out at the end of April. I don't get any commission, so I'm not pushing it for any kind of commission, but he's got a book called Fix This Next coming out. And this is really important in the way that we look at our businesses at the moment, because what we need to work on, we might be working on lots of different things at any one time, but what we need to do is we need to look at our business hierarchy of needs and think about what is the main thing we need to work on, not the only thing we need to work on, but what is the main thing that we need to fix next. And the hierarchy of needs is based upon Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in that as humans at the bottom, we need oxygen, we need water, we need food, and then going up, we need shelter, we need connections, we need relationships. So as you go up the hierarchy of needs, it would be pointless having a roof over our head if we haven't got the oxygen, the water, and the food in the level below it. So the idea is that you look at this business hierarchy of needs. You look at sales, because sales are cash, which is really important for us right now. Profit really is about margins. How can we be more efficient? How can we be more productive? Order is then looking at sort of how we can be in control of our business. How can we be more directional? How can we make better decisions, etc.? So I want you to keep thinking about, have you got holes in your bucket of sales? Are there things that you need to look at and improve? Is it conversions? Is it leads? Is it the amount that you charge people? Okay, what do you need to plug in? I've got an evaluation sheet that I use for this, and it's really important to make sure that you look at this business hierarchy of needs and decide where it is that you need to work on as a main focus. Not the only focus, but a main focus. So just to give you a bit of an idea on here, sales is about obviously attracting prospects, it's client conversion rates. It's also, in these difficult times, delivering on your client commitments. Are you doing what you promise? Just because you're in chaos, make sure you don't let clients down, and make sure that they're not letting you down. Are your clients treating you well? We talked about that in accounting. The next level then is profit. So that is about managing your debts. That's about making sure you've got healthy profit margins. How often do people buy from you? How are you using your finances in your business to generate profit? And most importantly, and this is something I started working on with people weeks and months ago. One was thanking me the other day for it because he started working on just before Christmas. Cash reserves. This is a guy who has got enough cash reserves in his business that on a skeleton framework, he's going to be able to keep his business at the level it was 2 or 3 weeks ago for the next 6 months. So having this cash reserve. So profit is about generating those cash reserves, that surplus that you need. And we can still do that. And I know it might feel really hard at the moment, but if we are going to, as Paul pointed out, if we're going to make use of grants later on, we need to make sure we've got cash reserves. And some of those reserves might come from actually taking it from other people, other sources, the Sybil's loan because it's interest free, etc. Or it could just be our own cash reserve. So I just wanted to remind everybody that it's that business hierarchy of needs. And when we get into order, that's more of when we start looking about efficiencies of delegation, efficiencies of team, etc. So some do's and don'ts, just to finish off on. Do's and don'ts in a business crisis. I'm just going to go through these very quickly. Do communicate more. Okay, don't stick your head in a bucket of sand and hope that everything's going to go away. Don't ignore your suppliers. Don't ignore your clients. Don't ignore those people that are chasing you for money. Don't ignore your team. Communicate more. Keep up to date with resources. You can go to the gov.uk website and the business resources one, and you can sign up for daily updates. Now, you do get a lot of emails, and I've got emails about schools, school dinners, all sorts of things. But keep up to date with resources. Follow thought leaders, subscribe, and follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook. Look at the chamber, look at the university. Make sure you're keeping up to date with resources. HR consultants, Kate, if Kate's got a newsletter that she sends out, subscribe to it. Take advice, because these people are not only going to give you great resources now, they're going to be there to provide you with the services and the resources later on. And I would hope that we will do business with those people that gave us that great information right now. Do monitor your expenses, business and personal. Do monitor and plan your cash flow. Talked about that earlier on. Do talk to someone about your circumstances. You'll notice on TV, we've got this Britain Get Talking. Okay, I've been inundated with calls from 6 o'clock in the morning to 11:15 at night for the last 2 weeks. It calmed down last Thursday a little bit. With clients that are ringing up, I've had 3 ring while being on here, that are ringing up just to talk to someone, just to talk to someone outside of the business, just to unload their burden a little bit. Okay, so make sure you've got somebody that you can talk to. Don't hide it, talk about it, share it. Do get some short-term goals and focus points. Really, really important, as I mentioned in the strategic planning section of it. And do plan for all eventualities. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a disaster plan. There's nothing wrong with having plan B, plan C, etc. So if you have those plans, great. Make sure they're in place. Make sure you've got these plans for all eventualities. But try to focus and make sure that you put every effort to focus on the positives. It's there if you need it, but focus on the positives. Don't keep looking at it. Somebody was saying the other day about mental health. Stop watching bad news if you're starting to get anxious about it. Kate has just mentioned here she's got some furlough resources that she's happy to share. So connect with Kate on Facebook or on LinkedIn. I don't know what platforms you're on, Kate, but connect with Kate and get access to those resources. Let's all help each other. If we need direct mail, for example, a lot of people are receiving emails, but there are a lot of businesses that are at home, a lot of businesses that trade from home, a lot of businesses that are having their post forwarded to them. If you need any help doing something different, email boxes are full at the moment. Perhaps a way you can break through is by sending direct mail. Talk to the guys at Alan Signs. Use those resources. Use the people that you've got connections with. And finally, the don'ts. Don't go silent, especially with your customers. That's really, really important. I'm amazed how many people are telling me that their suppliers just have disappeared. They don't know whether they're still trading. They don't know whether they should pay their invoices or not, because they don't know if they're still there. So, it's really important to tell your customers that it's business is still open. I was going to say business as usual there, but business is still open. We're still here. We still want to be paid. We still want to pay you. Okay. Don't go silent. Don't act upon advice without validation and updates. Be aware that people are getting lots of emails. I think I might have mentioned, I forgot how many times I've mentioned this, but I had a client the other day who had taken some advice from his accountant, and he did the furlough system. He reacted to it really quickly. And then on the Friday, he didn't need to pay people till yesterday. But last Friday, he made the payments to his team and he paid them the full 100% without realizing that the announcement came out last week that he only had to pay 80%. And that cost him about £6,000 that he really didn't want to pay. So when you get advice from me, advice from anybody else, try to validate it in some way. Bounce it around. I got some advice about the furlough and this 3 weeks in, 3 weeks, back in again. So I reached out to 2 or 3 people. I checked it with a couple of accountants. I checked it with HR. So make sure that you validate it and make sure you're getting updates on it. Don't take debt on to maintain business as usual. If you are going to take debt on, you've got to make sure that you're willing to change. You've got to make sure you're willing to do things differently. You've got to make sure you're willing to be more productive, more efficient. Do not take debt on to be business as usual, because you'll get out of it. And when business starts picking up, you'll just overtrade and you'll go bust. And I saw huge amounts of people do that after the big recession that we came out of some time ago. Don't think behaviors will not change. They are going to change. Your customers' behaviors, buying patterns, buying behaviors, the way people take training, the way people talk. There's going to be some people who are going to do more stuff online, and there's going to be other people who are just so glad to go and shake somebody's hand after all this, that face-to-face business is going to boom for them. I was talking to a networking group yesterday up in North Notts, Mel, and she was really worried because she said, am I going to have a business when all this comes? And I said, half of the people, no, they might do more networking online, but the other half are going to rush out because they're going to want to meet people. They're going to want to talk. They're going to want their bacon butties for their breakfast meetings. I know Glenn is on here from Alan Science. We've got our BNI meeting tomorrow, which is online. It's great because you're at home. You don't have to travel to it. But, we're all missing that physical connection. We're all missing the orange juice, the coffee, the muffins, the breakfast cobs. Behaviors will change, and they're going to change permanently. The other thing is, don't forget that you're here to make a profit. There is nothing wrong with continuing to trade and generate profits. You should be generating profits because you need to build those cash reserves. If you are going to service your clients in the future, you need to be, wherever you can, making a profit now, with respect, of course. And don't make rash decisions. Make sure your decisions are informed and timely, but also make sure your decisions are made against your strategic plans, against your business plans. Okay. So some hopefully very important do's and don'ts there. We've got about 9 minutes left. So I'm just going to open that up to any questions, make sure I get the right slide here for questions. Whilst I get the questions, I'm just going to put up the screen there. If you do want more information on the productivity program and all those other things that I've told you are available, information is up on the screen now. Okay, any other questions? Any questions on the do's and don'ts? If you've got any clarification that you want. Okay, Kate has just said here, yeah, Kate, I'll let you take yourself off a mute and say that one. So if you want to get Kate on LinkedIn, you can search for Kate Goodman, or on Facebook, Katie Kate. I'm not even going to ask, is that a Friday name, or is that what your friends call you?
It's because I recruit people as well, and so I don't like them looking at my personal profile.
Right, okay, that's fair enough. Thanks for sharing that. I did have to wonder, you made me smile anyway, if nothing else. So yeah, so Kate Goodman and Katie Kate on Facebook. Is there anything else you can add, Kate, to what we've just talked about? And do you want to share a little bit about the furlough resources, why anybody types in any more questions that they want to ask, or any more things that they want clarifying? Or is there anything you want to say or ask?
No, just to say, I'm an HR consultant. I'm not looking for business as such. Just if there's people that need any help. For my own clients, I've been putting together letters that give their employees notice that they may be furloughed, furlough agreement document for employees to sign, and an FAQ for employees. and I'm more than happy to share that with anybody who who needs it right now, who doesn't have any HR resource. My business is Kalida Business Solutions, so you can get me at Kate at Kalida Business Solutions, as well as those other more random things. But more than happy to share. I think it's a time just to support each other.
It is, and that is really appreciated and really valued. And I know, there are a lot of people out there, unfortunately, who don't have that kind of resource. They might be too small, but it's also important, and I'm sure, Kate, you'll echo this, that if it's just a husband and a wife in a business, you should still do the paperwork right. If you've got a limited company and there's just two of you in it, and you're going to furlough your wife or your husband or yourselves, then make sure you've got your record straight. Make sure you're doing stuff like that, because when inspection comes, or when people start asking questions, you need to make sure you've got that paperwork in order. So don't think, I haven't got a team, I don't need it. If Kate's offering it, then it's well worth doing, because you should be using it yourselves as well. Thanks for that, Kate. Any final questions? Got 6 minutes left. I'm more than happy to finish a few minutes early. But generally, I want to sort of keep this going to the end if you've got any questions. The other thing to make sure while people are thinking about questions is look through your notes. Look through what we've just talked about. Let me put this slide back up here. Think about those strategic plans. Think about how you can make decisions against it. What actions are you going to take? What are you going to do about your accounts? Are there any of these do's that you need to think, I need to communicate more? Write down actions, circle them, highlight them. I'm trusting that you're doing that. Okay, I can't see you. You can see me, which is great, but I can't see you. I'm trusting that you're there and you're making notes and you're making sure you've got some actions to take away. It might be something that you've got to stop doing. Perhaps you have gone too silent with your customers. And as you've got actions that you're going to do, type them in the questions box. We've got just about everybody still on the session now, so I really appreciate that you stayed to the end of this. But now take a few minutes just to look through your notes, look through the things that I've talked about, and give me 1, 2, 3 actions that you're going to take in the next week. Write it in the questions and answers box. Tell me what it is you're going to do in the next week differently because of what you've learned today, or what you've heard today, or what it's inspired you to think about today, or perhaps it's even what it's reminded you of today. Okay, Niels has the question here. So, yep, great. So I can see people putting here actions that they're going to do. Following up on outstanding leads. Yeah, absolutely, Kate. I had a client who did that the other day. They're a web design company, and he thought I'd gone balmy when I told him to ring up old proposals and other leads he'd had some time ago. He did it, and he couldn't believe the amount of work that he got out of it, because some people perhaps thought they were going to do it themselves. Perhaps it was a bit too much of a far-off dream at the time that they want to do, but now they have decided they're going to do it. So lots of people putting things down there. Right, so let me go to Neil's question. You have an ear to the ground. What are the trends that you see coming, either from a business landscape or government interventions? A worrying trend is that some of the existing schemes that are out there to support businesses, and I know some of the growth hubs have already started doing this, that have got people quite a way down the line of receiving support or receiving funding. They are pulling those funding pots and they're putting them into other resources. So that's a worrying trend. Somebody I was talking to last week who was in the final sort of 5% of getting a £10,000 grant from the Growth Hub, was told, sorry, you're not getting it next week now. We're having to pull that fund and put it elsewhere. So definitely the redistribution of funds is going to be something that is there. The other thing is that I think more digital programs, there is a fund in Lincolnshire that if you have a product that will help people work remotely, those businesses can get up to £25,000 worth of funding for new ways of working remotely. So if it's something they haven't done before, it's not something that's off the shelf, but if they've got bespoke things that they need for working remotely, there's a £25,000 potential grant available for digital. So I think there'll be a lot more help with digital. I think there'll be a lot more support for doing things digitally. Certainly with the government interventions, I think we've seen the biggest of those now. I think most of the others will be, they'll come through sort of proportionate grants, so 50% grants, etc. It's interesting that from the CBILS, from the the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme, I know I'll get it wrong eventually, that the banks actually are in control of what their own criteria are and their own rates and of how they apply risk to those rates. So the only one thing I can see that government might do sooner with regards to businesses is they might sort of slap down some of the lenders and get them to conform more to what the government's looking at, because some lenders are already talking about loans at 9%. Well, that wasn't the government sort of aim. Some of them might be for the very high risk ones, but it's almost as though they're painting everybody with the same brush. I think the other things is going to be transport, fuel, that you have different tax reliefs, and there might be some of that. But I think the other thing, ear to the ground, is very much around tax increases. I think there's going to be a significant change in the way that businesses are taxed and self-employed people are taxed. The Chancellor mentioned it very much in his speech, I think it was last week, that we can't expect to make our figures fit so that we pay little tax, but then expect to get all the benefit of the tax system. So I think there'll be very much a level. Obviously, the dividend tax is part of that and is being sort of introduced for a while, but I think we'll see a completely different way that we will be employed and that we will take our money out of our business. So that definitely will be a big one. Lots of people here, plan again and again, push on cash flow, actions. Okay, do you think, this is David Norton, do you think there will be any support similar to self-employed grant payments for directors paying themselves? No. I think that's a categoric no. I can't see that. I think the government are looking at it very much that, you're working the system, you've taken the benefit of having dividends for a long while with low salaries, so you're not paying tax, you're not paying national insurance, so you can't have had your cake and now you want to eat it. So I think, David, from that point of view, I think directors paying themselves small salary plus dividends, I think that has no sympathy from government, and I don't think it has much sympathy, and I do it. So, I'll hold my hands up, we get 80% of that small salary, but I think, we do have to just put our hands up and say, yeah, fair enough. It doesn't help us now, but I don't think we'll get much sympathy from anywhere on that. Do I know a business that has received a civil response or even a loan yet? Yes, I know lots of people who have gone through the process. I know lots of people who have had calls back from their lenders. I didn't mention earlier on, actually, I should have done. Certain brokers have negotiated direct access to the lenders. So you might go to your lender direct, you might go to your bank direct, but if you're getting put on hold, as I was last week for 14 hours overall in the week, I went to a broker, I asked her about direct access, and within 15 minutes, she got through to Barclays Bank and she had pushed my information up the line. So if you've got a relationship with a broker, have a chat with them, make sure they've got direct access to the lenders, because they can get it done more efficiently. They don't get a commission, they don't get any kind of pay, so they Generally, they're all going to charge you a fee for that. But most of the information I've asked for, mentioned earlier on, about business plans, cash flow forecasts, being positive about 2021, all of that has come from either the banks direct or from people that have had a response. And most of the people are getting told this is going to be 5 to 6 days before you get a call back. Then it's another 5 to 6 days before they'll look at it. So, this is going to take 2 to 3 weeks. Katie's got another goal there. Neil, great session. Thanks, Simon. Can you recommend any brokers? If you connect with me, if you're not connected on LinkedIn, and you look down my LinkedIn post, you will see I mention one particular one on there. I don't want to mention them on this because that's not the purpose of this session. If you do want to message me directly, I've got one or two that certainly I recommend my business to. It's like recruitment, Judy and David Norton at Rich Recruit. They're the people that I pass most of my recruitment referrals to. I'm happy to mention them because they're on here. The brokers aren't on here, so that would be a bit improper to do that. But I do have people that I don't get anything from, but I know they've done a great service for my clients in the past. I'm happy to do that by direct message, but connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll see some of the posts a little bit further down the timeline that I've mentioned that. Okay, thank you very much. We've gone 4 minutes over going through all these things. Thank you so much for sharing your goals. This is going to be invaluable information to Charlotte and the team at the productivity program, because they want to see that people are going to do something from this. So thank you very much for sharing that. Gather up your questions for next week, same time, same link. Keep the link, use it. And if there are any questions in the meantime that are more urgent, if you're connected with me, then I'm happy to field any questions or pass any information on. And don't forget Kate's great advice on that. And if you're looking for any kind of publicity, PR, anybody to help with anything like that, I can't heartily recommend Kate Strawson and the team at Shooting Star enough for all the great work that they did on getting this out. It's been very impressive, and I'm sure they'll be a great asset if you're looking at doing anything like that to put your business out in front of your market or in front of new markets as well. Time to draw it to a close. Thanks very much. Contact details on there. Take a screenshot of it. Get in touch with people and help each other. As the saying goes, be safe, stay healthy, and stay at home. Bye for now.